and Pixar have this almost magical ability to craft films that stick with us. Not just because of how visually stunning they are, but because of how emotionally rich and universally relatable their stories tend to be. Whether you're a child watching for the first time, or an adult catching subtle themes you never noticed before, there's something in these movies that just pull you in. Over time, fans and critics alike have picked up on certain patterns that show up again and again in these films. Familiar story themes, character arcs, emotional pivots, and uplifting resolutions. That storytelling style is what many refer to as the Disney formula. And in my opinion, Tangled is one of the best examples of how this formula can be executed to near perfection. It checks almost every box you can think of. Engaging characters, a journey of self-discovery, a complex villain, breathtaking animation, catchy songs, emotional highs and lows, and of course, a heartwarming ending. But beyond just fitting the mold, Tangled elevates it. It takes the well-loved structure and breathes new life into it, making something that feels classic and fresh at the same time. In this video, I'll be diving into what exactly the Disney formula is, at least how I interpret it, breaking down the key elements that make it so effective, and showing how Tangled perfectly executes that formula. Whether you're a lifelong fan of the film, or just someone who's curious about what makes many Disney movies a hit, I hope that this breakdown gives you a deeper appreciation of both the craft behind the magic and the magic itself. In my opinion, the Disney formula refers to a consistent storytelling blueprint that Disney and Pixar often follow to craft emotionally impactful and universally beloved films. This approach to storytelling is not rigid, but rather a flexible framework that has evolved over the years, adapting to changing audiences while maintaining certain core components that deeply resonate with viewers of all ages. At its heart, this formula typically includes 8 key elements that contribute to the success and overall emotional weight of their stories. These key elements are a relatable protagonist with a clear goal or flaw, emotional stakes and universal themes, memorable side characters and emotional reliefs, great world building, plot structure, a powerful twist, an emotional climax, and a hopeful or bittersweet ending. Now let's break each of these down. The central character is almost always someone with an internal longing, something missing in their life that drives their journey. This desire might be to belong, to be free, to find purpose, or to simply be understood. Importantly, these protagonists are rarely perfect. They're flawed, human, and often caught in tension between who they are and who they want to be. Simba from The Lion King runs from his guilt and must find the courage to reclaim his identity. Ariel from The Little Mermaid yearns for freedom and self-expression. Joe from Soul is chasing what he thinks is his life calling, only to question what living truly means. These characters are reflections of a lot of us, ambitious, imperfect, and yearning for more. Disney and Pixar don't just entertain. They explore themes that hit home no matter your background. Identity, love, loss, acceptance, family, and purpose. These themes are embedded deeply into the kind of story that both kids and adults can connect with, in different, deep, and meaningful ways. Take Inside Out, for instance. On the surface, it's an animated adventure through a child's mind. But beneath that, it teaches a profound lesson on emotional intelligence and the value of sadness, a concept many adults can relate to. Children enjoy the colorful characters and adventure, while older viewers are often moved by the raw, emotional truth behind it all. Another cornerstone of the Disney formula is the presence of dynamic side characters that offer both humor and heart. Think of Olaf from Frozen, Dory from Finding Nemo, or Mushu from Mulan. These characters do more than just crack jokes. They often act as emotional anchors, providing both wisdom in humorous ways or offering the protagonist the support they didn't know they needed. Their humor lightens heavier moments and balances the emotional weight of the story, making it accessible without diminishing its depth. Plus, they're often the ones the audiences remember most fondly. Disney and Pixar are experts at creating immersive, imaginative worlds that feel alive. But these aren't just backdrops. They're integrated into the story and theme. Each world has its own culture, rules, and internal logic that reflects the emotional journey of the characters. In Coco, the Land of the Dead is not only visually stunning, but it's also rooted in culture and emotional truth. These environments aren't just pretty. They enhance the narrative and reinforce the central ideas in unforgettable ways. Most Disney and Pixar stories follow the classic hero's journey, a narrative arc that includes a call to adventure, trials, transformation, and return. But what sets their version apart is the emotional nuance. They consistently explore the tension between what the character wants and what they actually need. In Ratatouille, Remy wants to be a world-class chef, but what he needs is to trust his instincts, embrace who he is, and find his true purpose. The internal shift is the real climax, not the external achievements. This inward journey often makes films feel personal, even when they feature talking toys or animals. Great Disney and Pixar stories almost always include a twist, not just for shock value, but to deepen the emotional complexity of the story. It's a moment of revelation, when the characters and by extension the audience sees things in a completely new light. In Frozen, we're led to believe that true love will come from a prince, but the twist reveals that sisterly love is the true act of salvation. In Toy Story 4, Woody realizes that his identity doesn't have to be tied to being a child's toy. His purpose can evolve. These twists don't just change the plot, they change the meaning of everything we've seen up until that point. The emotional climax is often where the storytelling hits its peak. Sometimes through a powerful song, sometimes through a wordless montage, and sometimes through subtle visuals and musical cues. Songs like Let It Go from Frozen, Remember Me from Coco, and How Far Will I Go from Moana are not just catchy, but they encapsulate the character's transformation. And in the films without major musical numbers, the emotional impact is still there. Consider the heartbreaking montage of Carl and Ellie's life in Up, or Bing Bong's final moment in Inside Out. The scenes often use lighting, color tones, silence, and instrumental musical shifts to convey a deep emotion, often without saying a single word. Lastly, Disney and Pixar films rarely end with a simple happily ever after anymore. Instead, we get endings that feel earned. Emotionally satisfying, sometimes sad, but always hopeful. They leave us with a sense of closure, growth, and the reminder that life is a journey filled with change, love, and resilience. Even in stories where loss or sacrifice occurs, the ending points toward healing and new beginnings. Soul ends with Joe uncertain of what comes next, but excited to live. Onward ends with Ing realizing that he already had everything he's been searching for. These endings linger, not because they tie everything up in a bow, but because they speak to something real and lasting that many people can relate to. There's a reason why people still talk about movies such as Coco, Ratatouille, WALL-E, and Finding Nemo. They're great examples of when the Disney formula really works. These films hit all the right marks. They pull you in with compelling plots, they ground their stories in powerful emotional themes, and they build rich, immersive worlds that feel alive. But most importantly, they don't just follow the formula, they elevate it. The characters grow in meaningful ways, the messages resonate long after the credits roll, and everything feels intentional and heartfelt. But then, there are times that Disney and Pixar miss the mark. In my opinion, one of the clearest examples of this is the Disney movie Wish. While it clearly wanted to pay tribute to Disney's legacy, it ended up feeling more like a checklist of references rather than a story of its own. The villain was lacking. The character arcs felt rushed or incomplete. And instead of building something emotionally rich and new, the film leaned so hard on nostalgia that it lost its footing. It had all of the ingredients to make it a success. Songs, magic, a spirited protagonist, but something was missing. The emotional stakes didn't land. The songs weren't memorable. And instead of inspiring wonder, the story felt too safe, too predictable, and even lazy. Sometimes the overuse of humor or quirkiness or a forced plot twist can actually weaken the emotional impact. And Wish is a good example of how that can happen. The Disney formula is powerful when it's done right, but when it's not, you can really feel the difference. Tangled is one of those rare Disney films that manages to strike a perfect balance between timeless fairy tale charm and a modern emotional sensibility. It doesn't just follow the Disney formula. It brings it to life with intention, heart, and a surprising level of depth. Everything about Tangled feels thoughtfully crafted, from the character arcs to the visual storytelling, creating an experience that resonates across generations. From the very first scene, Rapunzel is instantly compelling. She's not written like a typical Disney princess. She's lovable, creative, resilient, and brimming with untapped potential. Her outward goal is simple: to see the floating lanterns that appear every year on her birthday. But as the story unfolds, we come to see that what she really is searching for is meaning, identity, and a sense of belonging. Having grown up confined to a tower and emotionally manipulated her entire life, Rapunzel's internal struggle between fear and freedom becomes the emotional spine of the film. Her growth isn't just about leaving the tower. It's about unlearning the lies she's been told, reclaiming her agency, and stepping into her own truth. At its heart, Tangled explores deep human themes: the quest for identity, the desire for autonomy, and the pain of emotional manipulation. Mother Gothel is a master of subtle villainy. She's not outwardly monstrous, but instead, she's silently cruel and calculated in her control. She isolates Rapunzel, not with chains, but with manipulative tactics, guilt, and control disguised as love and protection. It's a portrayal of emotional abuse that's disturbingly realistic and makes Rapunzel's journey to self-liberation all the more powerful. Her eventual decision to stand up to Mother Gothel is not just a plot point. It's a triumph of self-worth. The supporting characters are just as thoughtfully constructed. Pascal, Rapunzel's silent but expressive chameleon, and Maximus, the gruff yet noble horse, bring levity and charm without a single line or dialogue. They're not just comedic relief. They're loyal companions who enhance the emotional texture of the story. Then there's Flynn Rider, who begins as a cocky, self-interested thief who reveals himself to be far more layered. His transformation from a man running from his past to someone willing to sacrifice everything for someone else is beautifully executed and perfectly complements Rapunzel's arc. Their dynamic evolves naturally, grounded in mutual growth rather than just attraction. The world of Tangled is as enchanting as its characters. The lush forest, the sun-drenched kingdom, the secluded tower. All of it feels like a living storybook. Yet, it's not just visually striking, it's symbolically rich. Rapunzel's golden hair, a source of healing and power, becomes a metaphor for both control and liberation. And the floating lanterns aren't just beautiful, they're covered with meaning. They represent love, loss, hope, and the deep human need to feel seen. When Rapunzel gazes at them, it's not just a dream, it's a calling. Structurally, Tangled follows the hero's journey with elegance and emotional resonance. Rapunzel's call to adventure is literal, leaving her tower for the first time and metaphorically stepping into the unknown parts of herself. Along the way, she faces challenges, builds bonds, and experiences betrayal. But these narrative beats are never mechanical. They're infused with personal stakes. Her discovery of true heritage is not treated as a grand twist, but as a quiet revelation that brings her emotional journey full circle. And Flynn's journey runs parallel. His emotional pivot from self-interest to selflessness is capped by one of the film's most powerful moments, choosing to free Rapunzel even if it cost him his life. Moments of emotional intensity are woven throughout the film, never forced but always earned. Rapunzel's realization of her royal identity, conveyed through visual storytelling and flashes of memory, is subtle yet impactful. Flynn's apparent death is gut-wrenching, not because the audience doubts the outcome, but because of the emotional weight behind it. His decision to cut Rapunzel's hair, knowing it would strip her of her magical power, is an act of true love and sacrifice. It's not just about saving her, it's about freeing her. These moments matter not just because of what happens, but because of what they mean. Then comes the emotional high point of the film, the song "I See the Light." It's more than a romantic duet. It's a moment of transformation. As the lanterns float around them, Rapunzel and Flynn see each other clearly for the first time, not as who they were pretending to be, but as who they are becoming. The song captures the essence of the film's emotional arc. Two people shedding fears, lies, and illusions, and discovering connection and truth. The visual beauty, the music, and the emotional depth come together in what many consider to be one of the most iconic and meaningful sequences in Disney history. And the conclusion of Tangled ties everything together with grace. It doesn't just rely on a magical fix. Instead, it leans into love, bravery, and choice. Rapunzel loses her powers, but she gains something far more powerful: freedom, family, love, and self-knowledge. And the final narration, with its perfect blend of humor and heart, provides a satisfying epilogue that honors the journey we've taken with these characters. It's a reminder that the best endings aren't about restoring status quo. They're about transformation. Ultimately, Tangled works because it remembers that the Disney formula is a framework, not a shortcut. This film doesn't just check boxes, it fills them with life. With every laugh, every tear, and every lantern in the sky, Tangled reminds us why Disney storytelling often hits the mark. It speaks to the parts of us that long for freedom, love, and the courage to follow our own light. In the end, Tangled stands as a shining example of what happens when the Disney formula is executed with care, intention, and emotional depth. It honors the familiar structure we've come to love, but elevates it through strong character development, meaningful symbolism, and a story that resonates far beyond its fairy tale setting. Rather than relying on nostalgia or surface level charm, Tangled dives deep into the themes of identity, freedom, love, and self-worth, offering a journey that feels both timeless and refreshingly personal. It proves that when the Disney formula is used not just to tell a story, but to say something meaningful, the result isn't just a good movie. It's a truly unforgettable one. I would like to know your thoughts on Tangled and the Disney formula. Comment your thoughts down below and subscribe for more content like this.